وأن الله ربي وربكم فاعبدوه هذا صراط مستقيم وإن الله ربي وربكم فاعبدوه هذا صراط مستقيم.
تنبيه مهم. Important notice. The ignorant person is not excused from what we mentioned of the basics, and he is not pardoned for what he commits of blasphemy because of his lack of care about the religion. Had ignorance dropped punishment, yani had ignorance exonerated one, then ignorance would be better than knowledge, because knowledge would make one eligible for punishment, and ignorance would be exoneration. Would be better to stay ignorant. And that is against the saying of Allah the Exalted, قُلْ هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. O Muhammad, say, are the people who know equal to the people who do not know? Are those who know and those who do not know equal? Meaning, this verse gives merit to those who know. By extension, then, it gives merit to knowledge over ignorance. However, whoever was newly acquainted with Islam, or similar to him, so whoever's a new Muslim, or like a new Muslim, what makes you like a new Muslim? Being ignorant like a new Muslim makes you like a new Muslim. How would you be ignorant like a new Muslim? Like if you grew up somewhere as a Muslim, but with no teachers. You grew up on some mountaintop somewhere, or in some prairie somewhere, or like a Muslim who's imprisoned somewhere, he has no access to teachers. And so he's ignorant like a new Muslim. So whoever was newly acquainted with Islam, or similar to him, similar to such a person, he does not blaspheme for denying the obligation of the prayer or the prohibition of wine and the like, if he never heard that this is the religion of Islam. Because then, in this case, his denial is not stubbornness. The first obligation in reference to the family is teaching them the fundamentals of the creed, so that they would not fall into blasphemy by their ignorance of the creed. For instance, had they believed that Allah was a white illuminated body, or something like that, and then they reached puberty believing in that, and then died believing in it, they will be made to dwell forever in hell as a result of their corrupted convictions. So, let's clarify a few things here. Shaykh says, whoever was newly acquainted with Islam, or the like, he doesn't blaspheme for denying the obligation of prayer and the prohibition of wine and the like. What's not like that? The basics of the belief, the basic creed. Belief in Allah, belief in His Messenger, belief that Islam is the only valid religion. That's not like, in this case, the obligation of prayer and the prohibition of wine. Because even the new Muslim, in those cases, he would blaspheme despite being new. That's one thing. Then what did the Shaykh say here? He said the first obligation concerning the family is teaching them the fundamentals of the creed, so that they would not fall into blasphemy by their ignorance of the creed. Okay, that's clear. For instance, had they believed that Allah was a white illuminated body, or something like that, like if they believed that Allah was in the sky, or that Allah was everywhere, and then they reached puberty believing that, why he said that? And then they reached puberty believing in that, because if you're a Muslim and then you have a child, then that child is a Muslim by tabi'iyah, by following you. When the child first comes out, he doesn't believe anything, he doesn't know anything. So that child born to a Muslim is a Muslim by tabi'iyah, by annexation if you want, follows the parent, the Muslim parent. So, and you know that the child before reaching puberty is not accountable. So what if this non-accountable Muslim child says blasphemy before reaching puberty? So non-accountable. Before reaching puberty says blasphemy. Then, according to the Shafi'i school, since this one is not accountable, since the angels do not record the deeds of this one, then this blasphemy will not be written against that Muslim child. That's why the Shaykh says here, if he believed that Allah was an illuminated body or the like, and then reached puberty believing in that, which means when he reached puberty, now he's actually a kafir. He's still a Muslim when he's a child who didn't reach puberty, although he believed in kufr. He believed in kufr as a child. We're not saying he's a kafir here according to Shafi'i school, because his blasphemy is not written against him. Because his blasphemy is not written against him. So that means that if this child's belief got fixed before he reached puberty, and then he reached puberty, believing in Allah and His Messenger properly, would not have to say the Shahada to come back to Islam. He's still a Muslim. He never went out of Islam. So that's why the Shaykh says here, and then he reached puberty believing in that. So to say that now he has confirmed blasphemy written against him. And then he died believing in it, so he never repented from that. Then those ones will be made to dwell forever in hell as a result of their corrupted convictions. Those family members, those children of yours that you didn't teach them. You have to make sure you teach your children. We have people, subhanallah, they say, I'll let my child choose what he wants. That's blasphemy right there. I'll let my child choose whatever he wants. He means whatever religion he wants to be. That's blasphemy. That's apostasy. I'm talking about a person who was a Muslim saying that. And others, they just don't teach their children religion. They just leave them only. They don't teach them. Then their children grow up, seeing their own parents as medieval fools who are ignorant, and then those children get involved in very, very, very bad things, and they sometimes commit apostasy. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. There's, this story, famous story, it's called Roots. So this guy, Kunta Kinte, is supposed to be a Muslim. He got captured and he was brought to America. He was African Muslim. Then he had an invalid marriage contract by jumping over a broom. It's not valid. Then he made the woman that he was with have a baby. And then he never taught her Islam. And then she grew up as a kafirah. Wal-'iyadhu billah. And then she taught her children kufr. Now it's supposed to be, some say it's fictional story. Some claimed it's real story, but it's probably sensationalized. Anyway, whether it's true or it's false, the point is that look at that the succession of problems there. Subhanallah wa bihamdi. The one who told this story, he says, Kunta Kinte, he was my real relative. This one, he's not a Muslim. He's saying that Kunta Kinte, he was my real relative, that Muslim. And this one telling the story is not a Muslim. Al-Fudayl ibn Iyad said, do not be enticed by the numbers of the doomed. It's a very good advice. Subhanallah wa bihamdi. Because a lot of people, maybe most people, some people say they're sheeple. They just do whatever all the people do. Anything that's a fad, then they want to do it. And then you see great numbers of people doing something. So Al-Fudayl, he said, do not be enticed by the numbers of the doomed. Is this ignorance of the creed the result of the family's love for their children? The Exalted said, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I have not created the genies and humans except to worship me. The interpretation of the verse came as Allah did not create the jinn and humans except to order them to worship him, to command them to choose to worship. After the guidance came to us, which is the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the evidence was established against us by him, then we have no excuse. The Exalted said, وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا. We do not punish until sending a messenger. Let's stop there. Allah knows best. We'll start this next chapter at the top if Allah enables us to live until next week and gives us the means to do so. Do you have a question that I can answer for you? Question: would that kid be a kafir? The one in the story of Kunta Kinte? Yes, because his mom was kafir and the contract wasn't valid. So it's going to follow the mother, not the father, not the man. It's not the father though. The child follows the parent. Child follows the parent. But even according to the story, he still could have taught her though. He didn't teach her. He taught her his language, taught her about his culture, but he didn't teach her his religion according to the story. Can we say all babies are born as Muslim? No, we cannot say that. We can say all babies are born with the fitrah, but that doesn't mean that they're born as Muslims. They're born with the fitrah means they're born with the readiness for the monotheism. If you teach them the monotheism, then they will just fall back into what they were already ready for. And if you teach them something else, paganism or atheism, then if they accept that, then they will depart the readiness with which they were born. He said, so child born from zina is only the child of the woman, not the man. That's right. Because the man is not the father. Could you explain why the man cannot be the father? Because the child was born out of wedlock. Being born out of wedlock severs the ties between the man and the child. Wedlock means the man and the woman were married. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.